I think Steve Wilks should be coaching for his job against the Dallas Cowboys. I think Tony Adams should be benched at the very least, and Isaiah Williams should be sent the way of Xavier Gibson. Accountability season, I think, should commence a bit this week. Now, I get it when the team is bad. You're like, bench this guy, bench that guy, cut this guy, cut that guy, and you, at the end of the day, they don't have the bodies to do all that, and a lot of the backups still are worse. Like, guys, Michael Clemens and Brandon Stevens were not like the worst defenders that took the field for the Jets Monday night. Not even close. Like, there is a significant gap between Michael Clemens and Braden McGregor right now. And there's a significant gap between Brandon Stevens and like the Isaiah Olivers of the world that they turn out there. So I get it. You can't bench all 11 guys, and then when new guys come in, every time a guy commits a penalty, you can't bench him. I get that. But number one, with Steve Wilks, it just feels like with Nate Hackett, where it's like, all right, this guy ain't it. You know, he ain't it. And I think there's a time for patience, but you also, the opportunity cost, if you're going to be patient with him, is you're not maybe going to get to evaluate your defensive personnel as much as you could have. What does it look like if somebody else is dialing it up? Okay, it's still completely trash. All right, we just have a personnel issue. Oh, it gets a little better. Like, or does this one guy pop because we're calling plays a little bit differently? So if he gets tuned up by the Cowboys and the Jets fall to 0-5, I think that's got to be a wrap for Wilks. Now, whether that's Glenn taking over more play calling, or if they want to bump up somebody who's an assistant on the staff, because people always point out Dan Campbell. Like, Dan Campbell started 0-126. It's like, all right, well, let's just not do that. Like, let's just not do that. Like, a lot of other coaches started really bad and also sucked. So I'd prefer not to be having to do the copium if we're 0-11-1 or whatever he was. But Dan Campbell, I think it was either his first or his second season, he canned Anthony Lynn and he took over play calling. He was like, oh, I made a bad hire. And he admitted it, he remedied it, and he took over the play calling, and then he ended up getting Ben Johnson in there. Dan Campbell, by the way, is almost an underrated head coach because everybody assumed that losing these coordinators would really impact him. Like, no, that's his ship over there, man. Dan Campbell knows what he's doing. Now, so you should try that. I think if the defense looks really pathetic against the Dallas Cowboys, it might have to be a wrap for Steve Wilks. With Tony Adams, dude, his tackle attempt, it was at the time, it was a one-score game, and it looked as though sometimes you'll see teams where the play call, they'll try to let the other team score just because sometimes with the clock it makes more sense. Now, it didn't make sense then. That obviously wasn't the play call. That's how it looked. It looked like he was allowing the other guy to score. He just escorted him into the end zone. After Sauce, who were critical of about his tackling, Sauce comes screaming off the edge and cracks into the fullback angled to kick the run back inside, does his job, and then your teammate just can't even be bothered to even lower a shoulder or bend the waist. Like, he just two-hand touches the guy, pushes him into the end zone. This is at like the 5-yard line. And again, like, penalties are going to happen sometimes. There's drops. Like, if Arian Smith drops a pass, does he get benched for 2 games? No, of course not. But there has to be some non-negotiables. If you're not willing to even try to tackle, you cannot be on the field. Especially when you took this kid Malachi Moore out of Alabama, who he's going to have some trouble in coverage. He's not a perfect solution. Malachi Moore will not do that. Malachi Moore will tackle. You got to put some guys who are out there who are hungry. Tony Adams looks like a guy who, unbelievably so, somehow it's like he's like a nepotism safety. Like, he just got guaranteed roster spots and starting jobs for so long with Saleh, and then he just got one again. It's crazy. He's like a fringe roster level safety who thinks that he's like a made man. That play, and if you don't know the play I'm talking about, try and find it. It was the last touchdown the Dolphins scored, I believe, to A-Chain. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Watch the video. It was insane by Tony Adams. So at the very least, he should be like benched, get a healthy scratch, and you know, just send the message that there's some non-negotiables, and one of them has to be you have to try to tackle. Now this kid Isaiah Williams, oh my gosh, he's somehow worse than Gibson, dude. I don't understand how this guy's returned kicks and punts before in the league. Fair catching a kick at the 2-yard line, fumbling a kick return, and the kick return that you fumbled was probably going to go out of bounds and come out to the 40-yard line. So just a complete unawareness of the basic rules of kicking and punt returning. You got to go. This is one spot where, look at edge, they don't have a lot of answers right now. Those were answers to be solved in the draft and free agency, and they didn't get to it. Obviously, Jermaine is hurt. You know, they're not going to sign some free agent who's a starter in October. Okay. But the inability to find somebody who can be serviceable at kicker. I know Nwangu got hurt, but like a normal team would be able to figure this out. So that guy, I mean, if Gibson loses it but from one fumble, what Isaiah Williams did, he was worse. Isaiah Williams was worse in that game, so he should go too. And we'll talk about soon.